If you work with children with autism, boy, do I have a treat for you. Today, a study was released that is really going to change how we do business for children with autism. When I say children with autism, I'm talking from infancy through adolescence, and I'm going to explain why. And before I begin, I'm just going to let you know this is one of the most groundbreaking autism research studies of the century. This is something you have to pay attention to. You have to know about. This is very important work that is going to change how we do business in our Monday morning practice. I'm so glad that you're here with me. I'm going to tell you, I just got this study. I believe it came out today, and I just read through it this evening. So now I'm going to go through it with you. I might make some mistakes, but the message is going to be good. I looked into it quite a bit, and what I can tell you, we have a lot to work with. This is good stuff. We've got to dive into this together. This is too good to wait a week to discuss. I want to discuss it with you right now. I'm sorry, this is like Christmas. You can't open your present a week after Christmas. You got to open it today. The study I'm referring to came out in Nature this month, October 2025, and it's called Polygenic and Developmental Profiles of Autism Differ by Age of Diagnosis. Now, this is very important. Don't let the word polygenic scare you, and then you stop listening to me, and you're like, whoa, I don't know what polygenic is. You have lost me already. Just think of that as the genetic profile. And when they look at the genes and they say, these genes are associated with autism, these genes are not associated with autism, so we're going to look at all of the genes that are associated with autism in each of these children. So when we talk about, when I say the word polygenic, don't let this scare you. Just say genetic. The genetic profile and the developmental profiles of autism differ by the age of diagnosis. Now, this study is so huge, and let me give you a little bit of background on why it's so huge before we get into the present. The latest DSM, the DSM-5 that we use currently, they changed things. Before the 2022 DSM-5 that we currently use, they said that these symptoms of autism, the impairments of communication, the impairments in social interaction, the repetitive play, these symptoms had to manifest prior to age 3. Now, a change that was made in the DSM-5 said that it could manifest at any age. It could manifest when the social and the academic demands exceeded the individual's capacity. So suddenly, autism previously that had a cutoff date of age 3 in the DSM-4, that was removed. There was no cutoff date in which autism could emerge at any age in the individual's life. And that would happen when the demands exceeded the capacity, and then the autism emerges. So that was, I think, what this research is going to indicate. It was a progressive move. It was a progressive move, and that was very logically, empirically based when we dive into this research. And the idea that autism could emerge at adulthood or in adolescence. It doesn't have to emerge before the age of 3, and that there's different types of heritable autism that would emerge, we're going to dive into, that could explain the difference. It's not like the adult that is showing up with these symptoms of autism was missed when he was a child or she was a child. It's that it didn't emerge when he or she was a child. It emerged in a later age. This is some really exciting research that supports the DSM-5 taking off that cutoff that it needed to manifest before the age of 3. But it goes deeper, it goes further than that. And I can't wait to look at that with you, because this is going to change the way we do our assessments. This is going to change the way we do our early intervention, and this is going to change the way we do our follow-up recommendations for children. This is just huge, what I'm going to share with you right now, and it is going to change my parent input form. I'm going to make some adjustments to it as a result of this research, and we'll talk about that. If I make any mistakes, just give me grace when I'm referring to this research. I printed it out this evening. It just came out. I printed it out, and I read through it, and I was like, whoa, this is so good. And drool's coming all over the research. It was like, this is something I need to share in the podcast. My peeps want to hear this. They're into this. This is what they listen to for a good time. This is going to be a great time. So buckle your seatbelt, okay? This is going to be pretty exciting what I'm going to share with you in a minute. Another thing about the background when it comes to autism, so we know from identical twin studies that about 70% of the identical twins, if one identical twin has autism, it's likely the other identical twin would have it as well. Now, when they're non-identical, that number drops to half. It's more like 30 to 40% when it's non-identical twins. So we know genes matter a lot when it comes to autism. We know that from the twin research. Now, keeping that in mind, what this study is going to tease out for us is that the children that develop autism before the age of 3, the early childhood diagnosis, they're more likely, not that it's different, they're more likely, and when we're talking about more likely, the authors say it's about 11% of the difference that they're seeing between those that the group of children that at an early age manifest with autism and those where the autism emerges at a later age. We're talking like mid-childhood, adolescence. What they're finding is that a contributor to that is the family history. Now, this is really neat, and this is something we need to pay attention to in our parent input form. So when we're looking at the autism that emerges before age 3, we're seeing that a family history, when I say family history, I mean immediate family. We're talking parents, we're talking siblings. A family history with autism, a family history with language delays, a family history with cognitive differences. This type of family history puts the child at greater risk for autism. Now, these later developing emerging autism, when autism is showing it up at age 8, when autism is showing up in the teenage years or into adulthood. What these authors are arguing here is that many times it's not that they went undiagnosed or misdiagnosed and that they didn't notice it at an earlier age. It's simply that it was a different type of autism. And the reason they're talking about it in this manner is that these children are more likely to have parents or siblings that have a psychiatric condition or ADHD. ADHD being a big one. That's one I know very well, ADHD. But the psychiatric conditions that they list there include conditions such as substance use disorder, PTSD, oppositional defiant disorder, bipolar, clinical anxiety, depression. When we're looking at these psychiatric disorders, that's important that we have that in our parent input form. These types, is there a family history of? And I know this is very awkward because it's like we're getting very personal here, but if it's just one question, is there family history of psychiatric disorders, which can include attention deficits, depression, bipolar, substance use disorder? You just make it one question in the questionnaire. But this is going to become important information because what this study is showing us is that the children that have the later emergence of autism are more likely to have a family history of psychiatric disorders and ADHD in their family history. Now, of course, the authors say what come first, the chicken or the egg? Of course, it's probably a combination of the two, because if the parent has these psychiatric conditions, they're less likely perhaps to have a stable, predictable, consistent routine or executive function to make sure that the child feels safe, secure, and has a greater, stronger capacity to handle the social and cognitive demands. So the autism perhaps will not manifest because they're able to handle these challenges. Or, of course, is it the genetic piece in which you're more vulnerable to having social challenges because of your history? So this is very important. And the way it's going to change our practice when we do evaluations is we're going to want to know about the family history, including the psychiatric disorders when it comes to the immediate family. And I'm going to go to the next step and why we're going to want to know this on the parent input form. Because many times we come across children who are subclinical. They present with some sensory challenges. They've presented with some pragmatic communication challenges. They've presented with some executive function challenges, attentional challenges, repetitive play. We see these challenges as being subclinical. We observe these behaviors that are often seen in children with autism, but it's not enough to really create a profile at this time of autism. Now, in the past, the way we looked at autism was kind of a dichotic either or. The child does not present with autism, or the child does present with autism. End of story. But we need to change that thinking. And this article here is going to challenge you to not ask if there is a diagnosis of autism as a yes or no question, but to think of autism under the conditions of why is autism developing and when autism can develop. And when we think about autism as not being something that is at one moment in time, but something that could develop at any time in an individual's life, we're going to think more about follow-up monitoring. We're going to think more about what are the high-risk factors that the child is currently presenting with, and how important it's going to be to take preventative measures to strengthen the child's capacity so that they're better able to handle the social challenges that lie ahead. What I love about this research is not only the fact that they have the profile of 45,000 individuals with autism genetically that they've examined, but they looked at hundreds and hundreds of individuals on a longitudinal scale. And when we have that longitudinal research, that's when I get my crystal ball out. And that means we know what lies ahead. And when we know what challenges lie ahead, then we're able to better prepare the child. First of all, we discussed the parent input form. Now we want to make sure, this is how things are going to change. We want to make sure in a tactful, respectful manner, because this is clinically relevant. If you're doing an autism evaluation, we need to find out about the parents, the siblings' psychiatric history. This is going to become important. So we're going to find out about that. Aside from finding out that family history is positive for language delays or cognitive differences or autism. So we're going to need to know about that genetic immediate family history. We're going to change our parent info form. Number two, if the child does not qualify as a preschooler under the autism spectrum, it's important that we don't give them the stamp that says, no, you do not qualify, go on your way. Instead, we say, these are the symptoms that the child presents with at a subclinical level. Given the child's family history, this places the child at greater risk to develop autism at a later time in their development when the social and cognitive demands increase. You are giving the family an educated glimpse into what lies ahead so that they can be proactive. This is huge. This is a game changer. So their head's not going to be in the sand when the child's 8 years old and the child's not able to function. They're going to see what lies ahead. They need to build that child's capacity to handle the demands that lie ahead. When we take this proactive approach, first off, by having a more thorough parent input form. Secondly, we're going to go ahead and give a recommendation that's honest and saying there are these subclinical characteristics of autism currently present. Given that and the family history, and you list the family history, you're going to list whatever you see there. The child is at greater risk for developing autism at a later age. After that, things become practical. And we're going to give recommendations of what the parent can do to strengthen the child's set of skills. So moving forward, if we see that the child has attentional challenges, cognitive flexibility issues, we're going to give them recommendations to improve executive function skills. If we see there's sensory issues, we're going to give them recommendations to improve the sensory functioning. If we see pragmatic communication issues, we're going to give them some support and how they can support their child pragmatically in a responsive, caring manner. If we see some other issues with behavior, whatever issues we're seeing that may be subclinical at this point, when we take a look at the big picture, we put all the pieces together, we know that this child is at greater risk for developing autism down the road. So we know that we can strengthen the child's capacity. That's the name of the game. Strengthen the child's capacity. You don't do that with a rubber stamp that says, yes, no, go on your way. You do that by giving them a plan. This is very much going to change how we do business. You have to check it out for yourself. It's free, it's open access, and I'll make sure to leave the link at the bottom. What is brilliant about this study is that it looks at a large number of children around the world. And what that gives us is it gives us generalizability to the children that you're serving on your back porch. Many autism studies we look at is a study of 3 or 4 children over here, and this worked with them, or we found this with them. This is 47,000 individuals. You can take this study and you can say, what I'm doing is empirically based here. I'm not making things up when I say that, because there's a family history of psychiatric conditions reported. This places the child at greater risk for developing autism down the road. You're not making this up. This is very strongly empirically supported because they did the in-depth research of following children, longitudinally following the same child over the years and seeing children who were not missed in diagnosis early on. They did not qualify, but later developed autism at a later age. It helped them better understand autism and that there is a different type of autism. And it's a type of autism, more behavioral, social, emotional. The needs are different. The intervention's going to be different than the type of autism that you see before age, where it's very much going to be focused on helping the child communicate and helping the child build joint attention. Many of these children that they're seeing at later ages, their language skills are above average. It's going to be a totally different ball game that we're seeing at a later age. And when you look at the genes and saying whether different genetic contributions as well, then we're able to better support it. I am very excited to share this research with you that just came out today, and I'm very excited to change practice. This is why I'm always reading research, because something like this comes out. And when something like this comes out, we can DSD. We can do something different. When it comes to what I share with you on the preschool SLP, it's not, oh, this is going to be something popular. I could go to Google and say, what is the most popular speech pathology topic? Let's do that. It's going to be what's on my heart and what's on my mind, and it's going to be on what's going to make the world a better place. I challenge you to DSD. We don't need to wait 17 years before we change our practice. We can take today's research. When I say today's research, this was published today. And we can put it into practice tomorrow morning. We can have a 1-day research to practice leg. That's how we do things around here. We do something different. And when you do something different, you change lives. So that said, I want you to do what you do best. Roll up your sleeves and make the world a better place, one child at a time. You are always going to be first.